This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Hey, hi, and welcome to another show here on our podcast. We are in for a treat, ladies and gentlemen. Two of my favorite ladies in the world. I have known them since they were about 6 and feel like I was a part of their upbringing. But we're going to find out now if that was good or bad. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Michelle and Nicole Henderson. These two gals, for those of you that can't see them, because, hey, it's a podcast, they're identical twins, and I've known them their whole lives, and I still have trouble telling them apart. But I want to give a little backstory. First off, the reason these young ladies were involved in my life and with Laughs Unlimited is due to their very special mother. Sue Henderson, who's been mentioned several times on the podcast, was really the heart of my business. She was everything to me. She was a manager. Well, she was tough on me. Like a mom. That's what I was going to say. Like a mom, a wife. She was a manager. She pretty much kept me in line and was a very important part of my life. But what's really special about having these two young ladies here is that because of my relationship with Sue and Fred Henderson, who eventually were small partners with the company many years later, I got a chance to meet these young ladies and their brother Daniel. And Daniel is quite the brainiac. He's off teaching college. He's in Alabama now, right?
Yep.
And is a micro mathematician, I think. Is that the right
fancy,
term? Yeah. But he's just brilliant beyond scope. And we don't have him here today. But all these kids grew up with the club. So let's find out a little bit more about it. So Nicole and Michelle, let us know how you got started with Laughs when you first heard about it and how you ended up working for me.
So I think it was our second job, because our first was at Sticky Fingers, your barbecue place. So at Laughs, it was the best job ever. We got to be the host. We cleaned the place. We were also your cooks. Your food servers. We did everything.
Well, I remember, now maybe it was more Daniel than you guys, but just like Bobby and Bridget, my kids, you guys were pretty young.
Yes. Well, I know that.
Because we broke all the child labor laws.
Oh, yeah. No.
When we started off at the facility in the alley.
Right, Firehouse Alley.
Yeah, and we were definitely probably in junior high at that point.
Well,
I tell everyone I started working at 11 years old at the paper route, and we were working ever since then. So,
and that's why you have such a good work ethic.
Thank
both
you.
of you.
I always tell people that. I said we worked with our family always. So from little to even like 18, I think that's where you get your work ethic, because you can't lie and say you're sick, because my mom would be like, nope.
Yeah, right. Well, and I was going to say that my son Bobby started off much like your brother Daniel, and they would, like the garbage guy, would go around and pick up the trash during special events like Jazz Festival and stuff, or they would bus or something. You guys kind of grew into it more as regular employees, like as hostesses, like you said, food girls is what we called them, and you moved your way up into the kitchen. You never ended up in the bar.
No.
That would have been fun, though.
I wish we stayed long enough to do that. That would have been amazing. Yeah.
But you were there a number of years. So if you started around what age? At Sticky Fingers, which was my barbecue restaurant.
Oh, at least 12 years old. So, and we stopped working when we turned 18.
Yeah.
When you became adults and went off into college and real world and stuff. Definitely. But it's a great first job, wasn't it?
It was fantastic.
I mean, the good news is that, well, the bad news is maybe for a young employee, like you said, your mom and your kind of quasi-uncle were the owners and the bosses, and so we kind of knew what you were up to. But at the same time, you had opportunities that kids your age never had. Yeah. You were learning how to interact with the public. You saw people at their best, very funny and having a good time, and you saw people at their worst. We had a few, how many yuck patrols you might have done.
Yes, had to clean up the rope every now and then. But in the end, I don't remember anybody being super crazy. For it being a nightclub, You know what I mean? With, the comedy club and being there till like midnight. I don't remember any times
either.
where it was like uncomfortable or creepy. It was more of anything fun out of everything.
Well, I feel blessed that the comedy, because it was comedy based, even though it was a nightclub, everybody was there to have a good time.
It wasn't
sometimes
bad.
when you go to a dance club, some people are there for other reasons since they can get ticked off. It's hard to get mad at a comedy club.
Yeah.
And then what was the other thing, and this has been mentioned several times, is we started the shows, let's say at 8, so the people got there at 7:30, and the show was over by 10. It was a 2.5 hour event.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you drank too much, it was difficult to get too out of control.
Yeah.
And then if you did, I was the bouncer, so nobody messed
A couple
with
of
me.
those hecklers, but nothing bad. Right.
Right.
No?
Did you guys ever have to quash a heckle?
No, I don't. I still don't remember anything being crazy.
No.
I think it was funny, and we just sat and. Well, that's why I think it was the best job ever, is because you did a lot of stuff at the beginning to clean and do the food. But if nobody wanted anything, you just got to sit and watch the comics, which is amazing. They had like the best jokes. It was like the
and at
easiest
your
job
age,
ever.
that was
Yeah.
adult material that
It probably went over
educated
my
you.
head half of the time. Like now, if I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, they were talking about what? But then I was just like, oh, that's funny.
No, but it did actually open up the world to you, because we had comics from all over the country, and everybody would have a different topic line, and I'm sure that you found a lot of individuals. Now, I was alluding to the fact that you had to interact a lot with the customers, and you were saying generally it went well. But I always thought it was interesting, because as the boss, I would say, hey, you have to seat people in the front row. But most people don't want to sit in the front row. So did you guys find a way to manage that?
Well, you would just be like, oh my God, this best spot ever I have for you. So you kind of make it look intriguing. And don't worry, he won't do anything if you're up there, which you probably always did. But you just kind of like, hey, follow me. I got the best spot for you. Especially if it's like a couple that looked uncomfortable. Like if it's like their first date, you kind of put them up in the
we got
front.
a lot
so it
of
makes
first
it,
dates. Yeah.
Right?
It's definitely a lot.
It's a good
first
spot. So
date.
that
It is
way
a
they
good
don't
first
feel
date.
like they have to talk to each other if they're sitting up front. Like they have to be quiet.
I used to tell people I thought it was a good first date exactly for that reason, because if you wanted to talk, you had before and after the show. But if you were a little uncomfortable because it was a first date, you were being entertained. And so kind of like in a movie, you don't chit-chat all through it.
Yep.
And hopefully. And but I thought it was always interesting that I always made the seaters, you got to fill the front row. That's so important. And you basically lie to the people and say you won't get picked on. And then I would go on stage, and what I would do would pick on them a little bit.
Yeah.
But I always thought it was in pretty much good taste. I mean, I guess.
I mean, nobody yelled.
No.
Well,
and
not
I
often.
got a little raunchy here and there. But
I mean,
of course,
if
you
they came
guys thought
often, you would hear the same jokes. So it's not the only problem.
that is true. The regulars knew the jokes, sweater boy or
What's your name? Who's your daddy?
tip the waitresses. Just push them all the way over.
Those are the best.
Well, they
It made me
worked.
laugh every time.
And it got to the point where even the regulars, if they would come up and go, you didn't do the sweater joke. You didn't pick on. And I go, you always mix. It always
Sparky.
depends on. Yeah. Hey, Sparky, nice job. What's going on? And of course, you thought I was one of the funniest
Oh,
people.
you were very entertaining to me.
You were. Actually, and I was going to say that later on when you were going to say, which one's your favorite comic? I'm like, it was you. You always made us laugh.
Hey, I
It was
already love
hilarious.
you. You don't have to kiss up.
No, it was true. It's
Well,
true.
let's go back to the comics. And I don't want to dwell on this, but I've had other people talk about how some of the comics were a little out of hand or rude or something. Did overall, has everybody treated you respectfully?
I don't remember any negativity.
I think because we were young. So, I mean, we were like, 16,
Kids.
17 when we were doing that. I don't think anybody was ever rude to us because we didn't even engage in too much conversation or even egg. I don't know. I don't think we mingled as much. And if it was at we're younger. So nobody
Do
ever.
you want
Right.
some nachos?
And
Right.
I
Like, you want to
got to
eat?
say, it probably didn't hurt that it was not a secret that you were Sue's kids.
Yeah.
And
So,
Sue
everyone was
was,
nice
tough. She was really involved with the booking, quality of the shows and everything. I'm kind of mixing up the wrong words, but she was part of the
Nobody
reason.
would fuck with us.
Exactly. There you go. Let's
Pretty
just
much,
say it
right?
as it is. Nobody would fuck with you because your mom was a ball buster.
Right.
She would make sure things were done and nobody would mess around with her kids. Now, how about good comics? Was there somebody that stood out or bits that you really liked?
There are a few bits that we still use.
You
today.
still use?
Yes. One of my favorites, and we used to say this was whether or not we thought somebody was cool, that we would like them. We would tell them this joke, and if they laughed, we thought they were cool, and if they didn't laugh, then we're like, oh.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Which one was it?
So it was Tom McTigue, and he did a joke where he would say, "Oh, I'm tired." Well, I'm not like really tired, and I'm not like Ethiopian tired. I could swat a fly off my face if I had to. And I don't. And again, and it's funny because then we would tell that joke, and then we would bring it up to newer times.
I know you couldn't always say Ethiopia. You'd be like, okay, Somalia, or
Yeah,
you pick
right,
like some
right.
sort of like third world country or somebody that unsaid.
Oh, that's
It's
funny.
sad now that we're saying it out loud, but it was funny, very funny.
Well, another Tom McTigue bit, is, and we'll see if we can play a set from Tom later in the show. Very funny comic, by the way. He used to tell that joke about motorcycle gangs, but he had a scooter, and he would, it's a moto scooter gang. You know, they're all ready to rumble.
Or my favorite, his ending one was when he was sunbathing, and then the milk and how he loaded up.
Yeah. He burnt his chubby.
Yes.
So to cool it off, he dipped it in a glass of milk, and the girl says, "Hey, I always wondered how you loaded that."
Yeah, that was the best joke too. And it would be funny because then you would see the crowd, and that was like his ending. And then I remember one time he did it, and he didn't nail it, and so he had to end up doing like another 10 minutes of a set because that was supposed to be his dun-dun-dun.
Yeah, the big
and then everyone kind of looked at him
close.
because he kind of like jumbled up his words when he was doing it, and he's like, "Oh,
If you don't get the patter right and get
Yeah.
the beat right,
Yeah.
you'll miss the joke. But that was a crazy bit, and it started off. If you remember, he started off with silk sheets because there's nothing like silk, right? Yeah, there's nothing like silk and a headboard at 40 miles an hour.
yes, that's so funny."
They're so slippery,
See, I need
right?
to go listen to him again.
Yeah.
'Cause that's
Well,
very
we'll put it
important.
on this
There you
podcast.
go.
So when you hear the podcast, you'll hear a little bit of Tom McTigue. But he's a great comic and a regular at the club for many years. Anybody else stand out? Now,
I don't remember names. Oh, gosh.
But we had that. I can't remember that one guy that we do signals.
Oh yes, I was going to say there was this one comic, and we would tell him that we wanted a signal for him to show that we're cool or that he's acknowledging us. So we had this little thing where he did that while he was doing his bit, and then we would stand there and we would do it too.
No!
And try to put it into the
See,
app
this
without
is
making
this
it.
is something the
It
owner
was
wasn't
funny.
aware
Yeah,
of.
I
That's
loved it.
cool.
It was so funny.
But you don't remember who it was. Oh, that's too bad.
If you had your photo list
Yeah,
up still,
I have
probably
all
pick
the
them
photos,
out.
but they're in storage.
But he
And
was in commercials too after the fact. I remember I would see him on TV.
But we
commercials.
loved Dave Coulier was
Dave Coulier
that
was
one
there
we
a
loved.
lot.
Remember how
Oh
excited
yeah, because we
were?
were used to Full House.
And
And
the
I
star
still-
of Full House is there where you work, and at
Yes.
your age, that would
And
have
that
been
was
pretty
right when the
impressive.
whole Alanis Morissette thing was coming down.
She did the song.
Yeah, so I think all of us were all excited and we are trying to get the scoop.
Right.
We were like asking you
Right.
questions on what
And then the
what
song
happened.
comes out and it talks about well, we don't want, now your
Yes.
daughter's in the room. I don't want to say, but
But
something.
I remember the song was on the radio when we were in the kitchen cooking, and he went in and he came in there to get some food, and he goes, "Oh, this song?" And we're like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god."
Oh, that's so funny! I didn't know that. It was he was embarrassed by it. Of course, he was dating her. They had a nasty breakup. She came out with a
Yeah.
song about a month
Amazing
later.
CD. That was like the best women's anthem.
An angry.
And she was going to come out with Jagged Pill. She was going to go on tour this year.
Well, I'm glad you like Tom. Now, one of the things that we've talked about in previous podcasts was that even though it was a stand-up comedy club, and that's where my heart was, I liked variety acts. So there was jugglers and magicians and, and ventriloquists and impressionists. Was any of that for employees kind of extra fun for you?
Yes, and we'd still sing the song sometimes.
'Cause I'm a woman. WOMAN. I'll say it again.
Oh, that's so funny. No, but you'll have to tell me who it was because I
That
don't
was
remember.
Diane.
Oh, Diane Nichols.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, she was not. She was a female comic.
They did that whole trio with her and two other comics.
Women.
Remember?
It was like something.
Some
Oh,
women's-
we did a special all-women
Yes,
show,
yes.
and she was the headliner. She is
But they had a whole like variety show. They did singing. It was one that she did because I know she came regularly as a comedian.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
They did have a variety show for her.
She was a great act, still is, lives down in L.A., and she was one of what we considered part of the family. People like Bob Worley, Ken Garr, Paul Robbins, certain people that hung out with us more. Diane Nichols was one of them. We went to the state fair with her one year. We took her and Paula Poundstone out in the boat once and stuff. But it's funny that you remember that song, but I was curious if you remember like Harry Anderson is a
Yep.
magician who was on Cheers.
Yep.
And
They'd be like, Great Scott.
and Great Scott, exactly.
Yes,
You always
I
knew
love
where
that
the
one.
set was by the music, right?
And those little pigeons. Was it pigeons
Yeah.
he had? Yeah.
Yes.
No, he was good. He was amazing.
The pigeons that appeared out of nowhere, but if you worked there, you knew.
You knew exactly.
We probably shouldn't say.
Yes.
But, he would make 12 pigeons appear and then disappear. And
He was awesome.
it was a cool experience. As you can tell, even though it's been many years, I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it meant a lot to me to be able to bring those guys in all those variety acts and stuff. But it's also really special that you guys started off as young people.
Yeah.
Growing up in it, got a chance to experience all that. So I'm so happy that we had a chance to sit and chat about it. Before we go off, was there any particular event during, before, after a show that stood out? Did you guys work jazz festivals?
We did. I loved Jazz Festival and New Year's.
New Year's
the
was always one of
best.
my favorites.
Especially the whole balloons coming down and just everyone dancing, having fun. So
Everybody got to party at the
Yeah.
end. That was the one night I've told the audience, the podcast listeners earlier on, that was the one night I allowed myself to get drunk, and I usually did. But other than that, I didn't drink too much. But so New Year's and Jazz Festival, and there was no way to really express this to the podcast audience, but especially in the early days when it was huge. I mean, literally tens of thousands of people would come to Old Sacramento for jazz, and sometimes we had comedy in the club late, but normally we had jazz all day, and then the staff, like you guys, and I don't know if you guys did it because you were so young, but a lot of the staff stayed the night. They would clean up overnight and kind of have their own after party, and then be there in the morning the next day to work.
I just remember selling hot dogs.
Sold
I felt
a lot
like
of
that's
hot dogs.
all we did. Like, I know that's what me and Michelle's job was, is just selling hot dogs. Or you would sometimes make us wear those fancy, remember you used to make us wear tuxedos?
And jester outfits, remember?
that was-
In the park shows.
Yeah, that was fun. Laughs in the Park.
That
Yes.
Laughs in the
We had
Park.
12,000 people at the second one. The first one was about 8,000, and then we did 4 total. But you wore jester costumes for that, and Jazz Festival, you were the official hot dog girls.
Mm-hmm. That's all I remember, is selling hot dogs. A lot of jazz and hot dogs. I don't know why. Because you had that little rolly thing
Yeah,
that you made the hot dogs in. That was fun.
yeah. That,
Remember, I was like 15. It's fun to like mess.
well, no, again, you have to take your age into
Consideration of what we were doing. Everyone else was partying, but us, 15, 16-year-olds are.
Right.
Something
Because
different.
but even the regular staff like Jill and Lynn and those guys, they were like 18, 17.
It's crazy.
And you guys were, 14, 12. I mean, a big difference. But we had a good time, I think.
Yeah, it was. It was amazing.
Well, tell you what, I'm going to try to follow this up with a nice set from Tom McTigue,
Yes.
since you guys brought him up. But thank you so much for being a part of the podcast and coming on with me today. It's great to see, especially Michelle, who lives down in Southern California. We won't get a chance to see her and her beautiful daughters that often. And then Nicole, who lives up here in Northern California, we get to see Carly and Riley a little more often. So all a big part of the family. So thank you so much for being
Thanks
a part
for
of the
having us.
podcast.
Thank you.
And we hope you guys all had a good time. Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to listen, share, and rate the podcast, and check out the website and get the great pictures we got on there. All right. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
This episode's sponsor is DR Design and Remodel. Flooring, tile, carpentry, and more. Located in beautiful Elk Grove, California at 10461 Grant Line Road, just off Highway 99 near Sacramento. They do amazing bathroom and kitchen remodels, from design to construction completion. Totally professional in every way. Their showroom features beautiful fixtures, a wide range of flooring, and design ideas to boggle the mind. Their on-site design staff will guide you through to see your dream home come true. So call DR Design and Remodel at 916-269-0451 to set an appointment or visit their showroom today. We want to thank DR Design and Remodel for being our sponsor.
All right, boys and girls, we just finished the short interview with the Henderson twins, Michelle and Nicole. It was a real pleasure having them come by the studio. And as I mentioned previously, I've known them most of their lives, and it's just been a real pleasure to watch them grow up into the fine young ladies that they are today. And so now I'd like to present the comedy set we talked about from Tom McTigue. He's one of the top headliners, great comic, been around for over 30 years of stand-up, still performing today. And we had the pleasure of working with him many, many times in the 80s and 90s, and I have several sets of his comedy. So let's listen to one of those now. We hope you enjoyed it today as much as the Henderson girls did back in the 80s. Thanks so much for listening. Here comes Tom McTigue.
I took myself to the La Brea tar pits. For those of you who aren't familiar with them, what they are tar pits. And you get to look right at them. There's a railing, so you don't fall in, and then there's a big museum there that's just full of dinosaur bones, because apparently they just put the railing up recently. And 2, 3, 4. Inside the museum is a case full, I'm not kidding you, of 1,000 saber-toothed tiger heads, 1,000 of them. And I was just looking at it thinking, man, they were stupid. Because you'd figure after maybe the first 5 or 6 fell in, the rest would go, we should go around. Take a right, but they never figured it out, and so, damn it, now we can't pet them. They also found a woman in the tar pits. I don't know if you heard that, but some prehistoric gal apparently just went ass over tea kettle and fell right in. The guide that shows you around, he goes, this is Lucy. And I think he was just guessing that was her name. I don't think they found her wallet, but he goes, this is Lucy, and apparently, she was like hunting for berries, bright prehistoric spring morning, got those big old hairy prehistoric gunboats of hers all tangled up and just fell. And so over tea kettle right in the tar pits. And I looked at the guy and go, dude, you have never been through a divorce, have you? Because I think she was pushed. Anyway, I had to move out of my house. I lost my house and moved into an apartment. That's right. She pissed me off, so I gave her everything. And moved into an apartment. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, with those of you who maybe live in apartments. Okay, I'm just saying I'm better than that. And I can't do anything I like to do. My favorite thing to do is gardening. I can't do that anymore. My favorite part of gardening was mowing oranges. I have orange tree, and once they drop and hit the dirt, I don't want to eat them, but oh my God, you hit them with a power mower, it's the exact same sensation as running over a gopher, but you get the wafting aroma of oranges.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that. That was Tom McTigue out of Los Angeles, California, one of the funniest headliners in the business. I'd like to thank the Henderson twins, Nicole and Michelle, for being on the podcast and for dropping by the studio today. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the interview and the comedy set. We'll see you next week. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.